Welcome to 15K plus random movie reviews, where we take random movies from Metacritic's 15K plus movies to randomly watch whether we like it or not. Hello and welcome to episode 18 of 15K plus random movie reviews. This is Colin.
This is Niall.
This is random movie number 1397 on Metacritic's all-time movie list. It's a movie called Truman from 2015. It's an Argentinian movie. It's got 81 Metascore. It's got a 7.8 user score. Budget was 3.8 million and it made 9 million in the box office, so it was pretty successful. I won a bunch of awards for Spanish-speaking movies. Gaudi awards, a lot of Gaudi awards, whatever that is, but Gaudi is an architect, I think, so it sounds pretty important. The director is Cesc Gay, and the movie was written by them and Tomás something. Tomás.
I'm not going to try either. I don't want to offend anybody by mispronouncing it.
Yeah, it could be Akaji or something, but anyway, as we're not Spanish speaking and not from Spain or Argentina, we don't really know anybody involved in this movie, but they are quite prolific in the and
the two main guys, like they've been involved in movies and TV with reasonably good success, like a lot of Spanish and Argentinian stuff that gets highly rated. So they seem to have a good bit of acting behind them, and they're well regarded.
Yeah, and if you look up their filmography, they've done a whole bunch. So the synopsis of this movie obviously doesn't read very like a happy movie.
Yeah, it's like John Wick without the violence.
So, like in a nutshell, Julián is dying of cancer terminally, and he's basically deciding that he's not going to do any chemotherapy anymore, and Tomás, his lifelong friend, flies over from Canada to Madrid and spends 4 days with him, and in that 4 days they dance around the
subject
subtle...
of his departure from this mortal coil. I do like when they bump into each other. I think Tomás says to Julián, I see you've got an erection, which I thought was an unusual opening line.
Yeah, it was like, you're happy to see me, So it's kind of laid the foundations for, like, an old friendship or humor is long ingrained, and they're comfortable with us saying that type of humor to each other.
There's quite a lot of banter between the two lads, and unfortunately, as you already said, we're not native Spanish speakers, so I think in translation to subtitles in English, a lot of the humor might be missed. I think I found that anyway. Not as funny as it possibly could be in translation. Yeah, maybe I'm just too stupid to be able to watch a movie and read at the same time.
No, I'm imagining that there's a lot of colloquialisms that we
a bit of nuance that would have been missed on us.
Yeah. So anyway, the movie just starts off quite low key. It's Tomás leaving Canada to go and visit him, and he leaves his wife a tender, loving goodbye, which sort of doesn't warn us ahead of his decisions at the end of the movie. But
no, it does not.
No, a couple of kids and a loving wife, and off he goes. And just to hark back to when they meet, he shows up at his doorstep. It's quite a silent reunion for them. They don't really say a lot. They just stare at each other, and and that's when he says that line that you brought up. So
I enjoyed that line. It's it's one that the nuance wasn't lost on me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's you kind of get the sense and the air of what sort of friendship it is from that initial meeting, and he comes in and he's brought him a bottle of Canadian Club whiskey, which isn't not that bad of a whiskey actually. And I think, go ahead. Sorry,
I was just going to say, you've sampled.
I have sampled it. Yeah, It's kind of like bourbon in a sense.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which I'm a fan of. You kind of initially get a very quickly the impression that Julian does not want to be talked out of anything. He basically just says that to Thomas.
Yeah,
I hope you're not
his
here to
mind's-
talk me out of anything.
His mind's made up, and Tomás, in fairness, does try, but he's quickly shut down. He said, "Listen, if you want to start talking like that, you can back in the plane, mate."
Yeah, yeah, and that's, I think for my little WhatsApp messages with you, I think you enjoyed this movie. I think I think that the movie could have gone a bit deeper and a little bit more into their friendship. I believe like a lot was not said.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, but I think that's kind of the point, though, in that that's their relationship. They don't talk about the lovey-dovey crap. They just, for the most part, take the Michael out of each other. They slag each other off, as opposed to saying what they actually think. And there's a few moments in the movie where you can kind of see that the two lads want to say something, but they hold it back.
Yeah, but I don't know. In a sense, we don't really get anywhere then, and I understand that that's the theme and that's the air that we're supposed to be getting. But I didn't think it wasn't as emotionally charged as I thought it was going to be. And Truman, the dog, and the title of the movie is obviously named after the dog. It really isn't.
He's not
developed.
used.
No, he's not
honest.
used. No, it's there. There's a theme through it of them trying to, obviously adopt the dog out.
He's more of a MacGuffin than a central. Like I was expecting him to be a sort of a central character to the movie because it's named Truman and the dog on the cover of the movie.
Like Turner and Hooch.
Exactly. But no, he's not. He's not really used to great effect, which is kind of a shame. There's a few moments, but they're few and far between, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think those few moments are great. And obviously, we're all suckers for dogs, and especially this type of dog. It's got a very emotional face on it. It's got a very
he's a very sad boxer.
Yeah.
It's a lovely hound.
Yeah, a lovely hound. And yeah, so I just felt that there could have been a lot more done with developing the dog element of it, and also perhaps some sort of journey from not sharing their feelings to towards the end sharing their feelings, and they didn't really do that. And we'll talk about it later, but it pretty much Julian only breaks down crying after he's done something stupid. So we'll talk about that later. So so it starts off and we get this sort of the theme of the dog adoption. So basically he wants to obviously give up the dog, and he puts the pictures up in the vet's office. And I think the vet scene is quite good.
It's very good, actually. I thought, because in it, his friend's in the background, and he only then cops what he's doing in the vet. Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, you're asking the vet what psychological effect my departure from me snuffing it is going to have on the dog. I thought that was a good scene because he's into, his only concern now is making sure the dog is looked after when he's gone.
Yeah, and it's getting into the nitty gritty and the logistics, the banal logistics of actually dying.
Yeah, which apparently there's quite a lot. And well, actually, one thing I'll say about the movie is that I found a little bit of a sense of, while not a lot happens, even though they rush around the place a bit, there's a sense of anxiety because he's only there for 4 days and he's never going to see his friend after that. So there's a feeling of anxiety, and while they don't do as much with the time that they had together as they should have, it feels like because they're faffing away the time a little bit, that, to me anyway, I find it a little bit grating, and I think that might be intentional, kind of an uncut diamond type sort of just wrecking my head. Why are you doing this sort of stuff? You're making silly decisions, lads. I don't know if you got that.
Yeah, I didn't. I think they say it near the end as well. It's like these 4 days have gone so fast. I feel, and he actually says it's like Thomas says. He says, I feel like we haven't really talked that much, and that's like, yeah. No, they hadn't. And like, and that's And that's life, you know. That's time flies by very quickly, and sometimes you think you have enough time for conversations, but you really don't. And maybe sometimes you don't have the emotional intelligence sometimes to actually have the conversation that you want to have in your that you have in your head. I know it's all very philosophical here, but that's what you think of, though, because this movie is very much, as I said before, it doesn't really get deep into emotional things that I thought it would have, but it also deals with, as I said, the banality and just the mundanity of dying and the stuff that he was trying to put into order before he left and he knew he was leaving.
Yeah,
and I think that sort of goes in, you know, that segues into the hospital scene when he goes. So after he goes to the vet and he makes Thomas quite uncomfortable and sort of, you know, he was sort of he's kind of getting the gist of, okay, this is happening. And then he goes to the hospital and he sort of, Julian then sort of, ambushes the doctor and Thomas by going, listen, I don't want to do chemotherapy. So,
and then he explains to the doctor, and like Julian or Tomás doesn't accept it really, but the doctor's like, yeah, okay, I get your point. Yeah. Because he basically asks, you know, if I get chemo, will it save my life? Will it cure me? And the doctor's like, no, not a chance. You just live a little bit longer. And he's like, right, I'm off. Yeah. Thanks very much, Mr. Doctor. And Julian's like, yeah, sure. Oh, sorry, Tomás is. Yeah. Well, actually, what I found very interesting is as they're waiting for the doctor to turn up, there's a little calendar on the doctor's desk, and for some reason, there's a Caravaggio where the scene is basically people cutting into other people with a big long knife.
Do you want me to be on my art history nerd self here? That's not a Caravaggio.
Oh, I thought it was a Caravaggio. It looks like a Caravaggio. I didn't look it up.
It's quite dramatic. No, that's a Rembrandt.
Is it? Sorry. Okay. No, damn it.
I think it's called the...
Cut that bit.
Yeah. No, I'm going to leave it in.
Damn it.
And show my art history prowess. Yeah, I remember that bit. Yeah, and they kind of look at that. Yeah, that's true. I didn't take note of that, but now I'm remembering it. They kind of look at each other, and I think Thomas pulls a face. You know, he's not very comfortable with what the painting is depicting.
Yeah, it's a bit grim in a doctor's surgery. Like, it's a bit, appropriate. Sorry, anyway.
No, it's just that, he's just there. He basically just says, I'm just here to say goodbye to you, doctor. Thanks for everything. I'm going to miss the nurses. So he's just, yeah. They head into a bookshop then, and buy some books to deal with death. Nothing.
Dog psychology book for dogs. For the dog.
Yeah. He heads to the theater with Paula, which is obviously it's Julian's cousin, but obviously an old friend of Thomas.
Quite clearly.
Yeah, and he opens up a little bit in the cafe after. He says, this is the first of my friends who's dying, and that sort of made a connection with me because I was one of my schoolmates passed away a few years ago, and he was one of the first to die in the class, from primary school, and it's a shocking moment when somebody you grew up with.
Oh, yeah, and it's a kick in your own mortality feelings as well, like, as it's suddenly you're like, oh, yeah, we die. Ah, crap.
Yeah, it's not fun. This movie doesn't really hark on the misery of it all. It's
it doesn't dwell too much on it, and I don't know how I feel about that. I'm kind of glad of it because it's not as depressing and sad as it could have been, considering the subject matter, and it could have been really dark and miserable. It's kind of light in many places, but it does go there every now and then.
Oh yeah, and I think it does a good job, because he calls him at 4 a.m. and later on, and he asks him
off his bin.
yeah, because he's taking a bit of devil's weed or devil's cabbage. What's that? Yeah, devil's cabbage, whatever. He's smoking some of that,
isn't it, or whatever?
What crystal meth? Speed. He asks him, because this also made a connection with me too. He said, "Oh, I didn't know you're religious." And Julian says, "I'm very atheist. I was very atheist, but not anymore." And it's only when you face your own mortality, and maybe some. I know from personal experience, I was sitting in a hospital bed once, and I was like, I may as well say a wee prayer.
Just in case. Just in case I'm wrong about this whole atheism thing. The lads up there going, no, you didn't believe in us, so you can feck off. You can end up a nice hot spot down below.
You're on your own.
Yeah.
You didn't believe in me in the boring days. You're not going to come calling when you're actually struggling to stay on the mortal coil, But that struck a chord with me, and that was a little nuance there, and a little something that not everybody will pick up. They go to the first adoptive family for Truman, and it's just kind of a nothing scene, really. The leaving of him is quite emotional, actually.
The chat with them is kind of lame. Workman-like. It's like they're discussing the logistics of it, but as you say, as he's walking off, you can see it's tearing him up inside, because it's his death buddy he's leaving behind. He's been with him for years and sleeps with him in the same room all forever, so he's not in a good way after that.
No, and I just wish we'd seen more of that relationship, though. He talks about it. He says what he sleeps with him, whatever, and takes bathes him or whatever. I think we needed to see more of the relationship between Julian and Truman, right? Because it's alluded to, and we don't see enough of it. I don't believe. He then goes coffin shopping, which. Which is always
fun.
Yeah.
And then his friends like, so what are the actual prices of all this stuff? Would you mind sending me an email, because I don't think my parents got any money.
Yeah, but that's another thing that struck with me, because I have gone in and picked I picked a coffin for my dad, and you just go. It was like in an attic room of the funeral directors, and you just walk up and there's just a room full of coffins, and it's the most.
So that's real. That's not just Hollywood, or the Argentinian version of Hollywood. Okay, no. I thought it would be like a brochure, or Amazon.
No, you gotta see this. You gotta kick the wheels.
Okay.
Put the lid up and down. Oh yeah, that's good action. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. You get if the hinges aren't good, it's crap. Like.
Yeah, if it creaks like Dracula's, it's like, nah, don't want it.
No, that's what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
I want it to pop open halfway through the funeral.
Gotcha. No, that's fine. So I think during that conversation, again, it's that subtle nuances of the logistics and the banality of death. Like Julian brings up, do all the ashes fit in the urn? And the guy just said, yeah, the ashes end up small.
Tiny. And then that shows on his face, doesn't it? Like it.
Oh yeah.
Because it's then he's like, I end up in just a little bit of ash, and he's like, crap. And he just shuts up then, and leaves Tomás to take care of some of the logistics and talk to the chap about some more details, because he's just kind of shut down at that point, which I get.
It also brought up a memory of me. Just I know in the Chinese culture, maybe it's Japanese as well. It's Asian culture. When you cremate somebody, right, a member of your family, let's say it's one of your parents, you then very shortly after they get cremated, you go into a room and you pick the bones out of the ash.
Really?
Then you stuff the bones into an urn or something yourself. You actually physically go through the process. And I'm not smart enough to remember why that process is. I know a friend of mine did it for his father-in-law. And yeah, I was just like, wow. That was the first I heard of it. And it's like crazy. It's just such... I should have done it before.
Something I wouldn't fancy doing, to be honest. But, it's like a different culture, I guess.
Yeah, no, it just made me remind... It kind of does. It gives you that mortality again. What's that? Memento mori? Is that what the Latin? You're
Don't ask me Latin.
Memento mori. It's like something like always remember that you're gonna pass on or whatever. Anyway, yeah, this is going crazy, bleak and dark, but
Well,
it is a movie about death. So let's just see what happens then. Oh yeah, so then they're in a restaurant. One. This was actually, I don't know why I was emotional for this scene, but they're in a restaurant and there's a guy in the restaurant where Julian basically had an affair with the guy's wife and broke up the marriage. And this guy comes over after a couple earlier on in the movie didn't go over to Julian because they're so
he bumped
awkward.
into Un Amigo in the
Yeah.
previous one. Yeah, where they wouldn't talk to him because they're like, oh, he's dying. I don't know what to say. I'm just going to pretend to see him. Julian takes offense to this, which is a bit, I don't know, like he's obviously, he's angry about dying. He's not really angry about being ignored, to be honest.
Yeah. He's probably a little bit...
Well, yeah, he's a little bit annoyed about being ignored, but not enough to be arse going over and tackling them about it.
Yeah, so this guy, he is a very nice guy. He came over and said, sorry to hear about what you're going through and everything. And he was like, he goes over to him after and he goes, thanks a lot. That meant a lot. And then he said,
that was a very nice scene, I thought.
Yeah.
It was a very real scene.
Yeah. And then the guy said, well, if you didn't break up my previous marriage, I wouldn't have met this woman. And then Julian says, all right, then I don't forgive you, whatever. Something like that. It's quite funny, yeah. It was a good scene. This is around the 60-minute mark, and we kind of quickly find out he actually does have a son. He alluded to it earlier on in the movie, and I was
said he's got 2 children, the dog and the other one.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say anything else, which is...
No.
You're halfway through the movie when you realise, actually, he does have some offspring. And we don't even know if it's a boy or a girl up to this point.
No.
Which I thought was a kind of weird...
Yeah,
you wouldn't even ask, "How's your son?"
Yeah, and this is 60. This is an hour mark, and the movie is only an hour and 58. So it's like, all right, halfway through, they pop up to Amsterdam to see him, and it's an interesting thing. Like the son doesn't look like he's happy to see him, but he gives him a hug. Then they have a very stilted conversation, and he just keeps on saying, Julian keeps on saying everything's fine, blah blah blah, and then they the son does give him a very emotional hug at the end, and you kind of wonder, okay, what's going on there?
Yeah, but, you feel like the son is kind of annoyed to see him. He's angry with him over something at the start of it, but he kind of lets it go by the end of their meeting.
And then it sort of kind of mirrors the theme of them not speaking their emotions, because a couple of scenes later we meet the ex-wife and we find out quite shockingly that the son knows about his impending doom and demise.
So very similar to his dad. He was like, he wasn't able to tell the son. The son wasn't able to say, by the way, I know you've decided to feck off earlier, and I know you're dead, or soon to be.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So it's a sort of a mirror of, maybe the theme of the movie. It's unspoken, or things that aren't said, things that stay inside and you internally live with them. They go home from Amsterdam and go to Finnegan's Bar, and I just had to search it up. I had to search up Finnegan's Bar, Madrid, and it did actually exist, but it's permanently closed now, which is a shame.
Looks like a
Yeah, they all get drunk and they all get hung over, whatever, and I think the next morning they're having cafe or whatever. They meet up with a second applicant because the first applicants didn't go through for Truman, and she's like total cow, basically.
But like it's like 11 o'clock in the morning. She's having pints. That's not a great start. Even I'm like, that's a bit early. And then there's a waiter in the bar, and she starts basically shouting at him, berating him for being slow at delivering her next drink. And he's talking. Julian's talking about, I'm going to give the dog to her in the next couple of days. And Tomás is like, no, you're not. She's crap, not that person. She's
racist.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she didn't even pet Truman on the way out. And I'm like going, no, you're not getting that dog.
Yeah, not a dog person. Not somebody who's going to look after the dog or care for the dog.
Yeah, I don't really know what she was doing that for. But he kind of mentions in this cafe the morning after, how didn't I realize when I hugged my son that he knew, like after they after they bump into the ex-wife on the street, he kind of reflects on that, and it's like, then he says, I'm just going to walk away and have a bit of a cry, you know.
Don't mind me, I'm going over here in the corner to cry.
Yeah.
Whereas Tomás is like, okay, I'll just stand here looking awkward.
Yeah. We kind of get, you know, I didn't know how this movie was going to deal with his impending doom. Like, where are we going to see it? A bit like, you know, Philadelphia, you know, with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
But we don't really get a lot, but he does have a toilet accent. He pees on himself, and it's like, okay, well, that's...
I shouldn't laugh.
No, you shouldn't.
I should. But yeah, it is terrible. It's a terrible scene. In that his dignity is just wiped away with one little pee accident. And you can see
medical term.
Yeah, you can see it really affects him. Like he's really hurt by it. You know, and this is where he's decided that. I think that evening after the PP accident, he has his friends over, Paula and Tomás, and they're having dinner, and he says, "I'm not going to wait for this to kill me. As soon as the PP accidents become, you know, more frequent and becomes unpleasant to live, I'm just going to do myself in."
Yeah.
Not paraphrasing, but yeah, that's effectively what he says.
He says it in Spanish too, so...
Yeah. It would have been weird if he decided to break out an Irish accent and say it in English.
Oh, actually, you know what? I want to relate back to the Amsterdam scene when they go up to the boat.
The barge,
the student is there, and I thought actually it was kind of a cute scene when Thomas has to translate for Julian. Julian hasn't got a clue what he's saying in English. I thought it was quite cute the way they acted that one out. It was fun.
It was quite good, actually. Yeah.
We're around the 1 hour and 30 minute mark at this point, and they're having that dinner that you say, and he does mention he's assisted suicide, and yeah, they just it peters out, and Paula gets very angry that, you know, Thomas is just accepting that Julian has made his mind up, and she legs it out the door. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier, Thomas is saying, you know, 4 days have gone past fast, you know, felt like we didn't really talk much, you know, and it's just typical male emotions, couldn't say what they feel or whatever. Anyway, he heads out and he meets Paula on the outside, and she goes, oh, and he's like going, no, we don't want to say goodbye like this. She goes, oh, you want me to come up to your room? And I can't believe he actually did that. He's got a perfect family at home. It's like, what? That was terrible. I didn't like it. I felt the vibe at the start of the movie. It's like, are they going to get together? That's
there was always a feeling though when they were on the same scene, like that they were. Yeah. There was tension between them of that type. It kind of have a lesser of an opinion of the Tomás character for doing that. It's kind of annoying. It didn't need to happen. Didn't even need to be in the movie.
No,
I don't know. That's one piece I didn't like. That was in the movie.
I guess they used that as a tool to then finally show Thomas breaking down, crying and sobbing. After.
Yeah, it's the first time he shows any emotion, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess in that sense, maybe, but like I'd rather they did that when he just had a nice heart-to-heart conversation with Julian, you know. That would be more, you know, effective for me for the plot line, I believe. I didn't like that. Oh, I forgot to mention, I thought as well, like, yeah, I think the movie is pretty good at doing this as I've said several times now, the subtle little things that logically and logistically have to happen when you're dying. And we skipped over the scene where Julian is actually an actor and he's backstage, and the producer comes in and goes,
this is kind of important, yeah,
and he kind of goes, listen, you're going to be gone, so we have to get somebody else to come in. And Julian kind of go, what just happened? And Thomas goes, you were fired.
I love the way he delivers that line as well. Like, he doesn't sugarcoat. He says, you're just fired, son. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was a supreme dick move from his boss. Really sorry that you're dying. By the way, we've got something to replace you. It was difficult, but we did it.
Yeah, they're not as good as you, but
goodbye.
See you later. Have no encore for you. Well, then we're at the end of the movie, and there's the airport goodbye. They all go to the airport after specifically saying they wouldn't have an airport goodbye, but
wait, there's more.
Julian just trusts all of Truman's papers into his hand, going, "Here's everything you need for him.
Here's his ticket. Here's his passport. I've got loads of stuff organized." So
dogs have passports.
Yeah.
Oh.
You get pet passports. They have to you have to be checked and everything for I think
their face. They've got little face photos.
No, it's like vaccinations and stuff like that, and because dogs can carry diseases and all that jazz. I've never had a dog go international, but I know it's not just a case of slapping them in the luggage compartment.
No, it's tricky. It's very tricky. That's why we don't have any. But yeah, again, I was wondering in the run up to the end, and the movie went quite fast for me, to be honest with you. I didn't really feel like it was nearly 2 hours long. And that was me coming out, watched Oppenheimer during the week. That was 3 hours. That felt like 3 hours.
Every movie after that is quick.
Yeah. But I was wondering how they're going to do the goodbye. And it's a bit underwhelming. It wasn't. And he didn't even pet Truman Julian when he said goodbye to me. It was underwhelming.
Jog on.
Yeah, here's my dog. See ya. And then it shows Thomas in the plane with the collar, with Truman's leash and collar in his hand, and then it fades to black.
Finn.
Truman does look back when he walks away, and that's kind of cute and sad as well. But again, it didn't really hit as hard as it should have.
Yep, as you said before, like usually when there's a sad movie with a dog, the dog part of it can be quite, I don't know, it evokes more emotion usually than a human dying or a human experiencing pain. Yeah. That to me, anyway, is very true. It's not really not pushed in this movie at all. They don't really. No,
I would
go for that.
Like Truman isn't the pivotal part here, and he shouldn't be the title of the movie. It should be a part of the plot, but it's not the plot. It's about unanswered, untalked about emotions between male friends.
Yeah, and I think for that reason, the title or the name of the movie is wrong. It's misleading.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Like, and Truman's a lovely little device, but he's not. It shouldn't be named after him. Sorry, Truman. I tried to look up and see if the dog actor that played Truman, whose real name is Troilo, I tried to see if he was still alive because I wanted to.
No, he's dead now, Colin.
How do you know?
He's a dog. He's dead.
It was only 2017 or 2015. It's only 8 years.
He wasn't a young dog then either.
Yeah, 2015, and then that's 8 years, and those big dogs don't last long.
No,
so,
they don't. He's well dead. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Oh, you're sad.
Yeah, well, yeah. All right, so listen. When all's said and done, I think it's quite average plot. I think there's I thought it was pretty good. I'm just going average. I'm going 2.5 out of 5 because there's a lot of missed opportunities with it, and it doesn't deserve any more in my book.
You've rated exactly the same as me. I went with 2.5. While I enjoyed the plot, it's not groundbreaking or anything like that. There were bits missing. As you said, that like the dog part should have been expanded upon more. I don't know if I agree with you that the emotions between the lads should have been investigated more. I think it was actually accurate in describing some male relationships where people just can't talk about the crap they probably should be talking about.
Yeah.
But 2.5 is about right.
Yeah. I thought acting was better than average. I gave it 2.75. I thought the two lead characters, Thomas and Julian, played it very well. Like, if you compare it to something like The Sisters or whatever, it's like,
Yes, there's a slight difference. I give it. I give it 3. I thought they were very good. Like the two main guys, just bang on, and the girl playing Paula, what's her name? Dolores Fonzie. Which is a great name.
Hey,
hey, you died. Hey,
yeah. Pick the jukebox on the way out of the bar.
I thought they were very good.
Yeah, Javier Cámara plays Thomas, and
Ricardo
Darin plays Julian. Actually, I thought near the end of the movie, Julian really just looked like a up Noel Gallagher.
Yes, absolutely, he did.
Yeah.
Even more depressed than Noel Gallagher, though.
Yeah. But he had a face like a bag of smashed hammers. Yeah. 2.75 for me and 3 for you. Sound brackets track. I didn't really notice the soundtrack during the movie at all. There was a bit of piano in the background.
Yeah, the bits that are in it are actually they're reasonably decent. There's a bit of Spanish guitar kicking around. There's Argentinian rock, whatever the hell that is. Yeah, it was okay. It's not that important in this movie, though.
No. It didn't drive it for me, and it didn't really add too much to it or take away a lot either. But yeah, I gave it 1.75 out of 5. I just really have nothing to say about it.
I always insist on being at least 2 or 0.25 more than you, so this is 2.0 for me.
No worries. And production in general, I thought it was fine. I thought there was one. Did you pick up on anything at all, audio wise or SFX wise?
No,
maybe it's just me.
Going there.
Yeah, so like I have an issue with footstep sound effects.
Okay.
I believe they really overdone it in a lot of scenes and a lot of fakery. Obviously, footsteps are added later into scenes.
You're going to say that the Foley artist let them down in this one, yeah?
Yeah, Foley, right? Foley artist, is that the
Foley or Foley?
technical?
I don't know. I'm
it's
not a
Foley.
movie guy, but Foley. God. Caravaggio.
Yeah. Rembrandt. Pitt the Elder. Yeah, so like the footsteps, just if anybody watches this movie, listen for the footsteps, because I think in some ones, even I think it was the library even, or the bookstore when they're in there, it didn't look like cement or anything, but the footsteps were sounding like they're walking in cement.
Yeah.
Coconuts together. Like, where's the horse? No. I gave a 1.75 production. I thought, like in general, it's well produced, but I couldn't get rid of that.
The footsteps wrecked your head. I missed the footsteps. I might watch back that scene just to see if it was mental or not. But I give it 2.5. I thought it was serviceable, middle of the road. Nothing jumped out at me. Clearly, I didn't hear the footsteps. I didn't see anything good or bad, and so I just went, It did the job, and it did it well.
Yeah, not a bad movie, and again, I like the way that our little podcast project is giving us these movies, but we're getting we're not getting a lot of foreign movies, but it feels like when we get up to the top numbers, we get thrown these curveball movies, that aren't what we probably would want,
It can be harder to review a movie that's not English, because obviously we're not native Spanish speakers, not even close. Same with like the Indian movie or documentary. It was kind of at times difficult.
Yeah, well, it was way harder. But even when you look down to write your notes, you're missing something that's in the subtitles.
That's what's wrecking my head. And it's like he's gone on to the next paragraph. Like, oh, come on, rewind.
You just missed, you missed the key for the entire plot when you were writing down something about footsteps. Yeah. Lee Marshall in Screen Daily gave it 70 out of 100. He said, a genuine, likable, loose-limbed buddy dramedy about impending death. And Steve Davis, not the snooker player, in the Austin Chronicle, he gave it 100 out of 100. He said, there isn't one false move in Thomas Aragi and Cesc Gay's beautifully modulated screenplay.
Clearly didn't hear footsteps.
No. Footsteps. Okay, so that's the lowest and the highest view there. So we will put Truman into his doggy bed and move on.
That's a good boy.
Yeah, that's a good boy, Truman. So we'll move on and roll the dice for episode 19 and see what number we get. Oh, I'm very sorry. It's 15,176.
I'm done. 15,176. It's a big number.
All right, 15,176 is a movie that's rated 25 out of 100. It was released in August 2022, and it's a movie called Me Time.
Oh, God.
And the synopsis is, when stay-at-home dad finds himself with some me time for the first time in years while his wife and kids are away, he reconnects with his former best friend for a wild weekend that nearly upends his life. It's a Netflix movie as well, so it's going to show you what else. So there's Kevin Hart is in it at some point, but he's not the main.
A Kevin Hart movie where, oh God,
Kevin Hart, or maybe he is one of the Mark Wahlberg, Kevin Hart. So maybe they're the two. Yeah, they might be the two main stars of it. They're just not listed at the top, but I'm guessing they're the two. Yeah, they're the two headliners. I'm not a very big fan of Kevin Hart. I really don't think he's funny, so I'm gonna probably crap all over this movie.
Yeah, and Mr. Wahlberg is for the vast majority of his movies not great, apart from Ted. Everything else is shocking.
Yeah, I don't really go with him. I'm always watch Mark Wahlberg.
He's rubbish.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I don't really. Anyway, it's not going to be. It's 100 and let's see, how long is it? It's like, hopefully it's not. Yeah, it's 101 minutes, so it's good. It's like
That's
an hour and a
bad.
half. So we can get rid of that. Actually, the production is Heartbeat Production, so I'm guessing it's Kevin Hart's production company.
Yeah,
so
smells like it.
Yeah, it smells like it. Yeah. All right, so that'll be something to look forward to, crapping all over and making people realize why it's not funny so much. And that's fine. And we're getting up to nearly episode 20, where we give ourselves a nice rest and we pick a movie from the top 1,000. So we are slowly getting there.
That's where we get a documentary again, isn't it?
Yeah. The Pakistani documentary as opposed to the Indian one this time. So
very good.
We'll, so that's it. So great. So that's episode 18. I was just looking on Spotify, and people have been giving us ratings in Spotify. So we're at 4.8 out of 5 in Spotify right now. So that's nice to see. So if you haven't rated us on Spotify, please do. Don't give us 4, give us 5s. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can also leave a review and a rating as well. So thank you for all the people that have done that already. And that is the end of episode 18, and we'll see you in episode 19. Bye-bye.
Cheerio.